Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Turkish Spotlight Secrets, the place where we take you behind the velvet curtain and into the pulse of the entertainment world. Before we dive into today's revelation, remember to subscribe, tap the join button if you want to support our growing family, and hit like so this story finds every fan who lives for the twists and turns of Turkish celebrity life. With that said, prepare yourselves. Because what unfolded today sent a tremor through millions of hearts who have followed this journey from the very beginning. For years, the names Kagate Ulusoy and Hzal Kaya meant more than two celebrated actors. Together they became a shorthand for a feeling. Their shared screen history carried a heat that was as much memory as it was performance. Those wordless looks, the kind of timing that makes a scene feel like a secret meant only for you, the quiet electricity that seemed to flicker between them no matter the script. Fans didn't simply watch their work. They waited for it. They held their breath at every near touch, every argument that felt like a confession, every reconciliation weighted with unspoken promises. Hopes of a reunion never really slept, even the faintest rumor could whip social media into a storm. But what landed on November 20th, 2025, was not a rumor. It was a message, concise, unmistakable, and heavy with consequence. News outlets picked it up, online platforms echoed it, and within minutes the comment section swelled with heartache, pride, and debate. The announcement was clear: Kagate Ulusoy and Hzal Kaya are stepping away from joint professional projects and focusing on separate creative paths. This is a recalibration, not a rupture, a shift, not a final goodbye. Yet the reality stands: the magnetic pairing that helped define a generation of romantic drama will, for now, give way to two independent visions with no overlap, no expectation, no frame confining them as a duo. Let's breathe and look closely at what this means. The mere pairing of their names once stirred an entire emotional universe. They etched into the cultural imagination a portrait of irresistible love, complicated, defiant, tender, a connection that seemed to vibrate even in silence. Their gaze could say what a page of dialogue could never capture. Watching them became ritual. For some, it bordered on sacred nostalgia. Time, however, teaches even the brightest constellations to drift. On one side of this pivot is Kagate, who has been quietly but resolutely reaching beyond borders. Whispers, now all but confirmed, say he is committed to a significant Hollywood project, not a cameo, not a supporting role, but a commanding lead in a production built for the global stage. This isn't just a professional upgrade, it's a deliberate reorientation of a career. He has been working with language coaches, hitting grueling training sessions with elite physical conditioners, negotiating complex contracts, and spending longer and longer stretches in Los Angeles. His calendar, once flexible enough to make room for local melodramas, has tightened to a point where every hour is spoken for. It's the kind of leap many imagine and almost none complete. And with each step forward, the message becomes impossible to miss: the beloved partnership must yield to individual growth. Across the divide, Hzal is stepping into a different kind of grandeur, one that fits her artistry with striking precision. What began as a playful interaction with fashion has matured into a mission, a sustainable label grounded in ethical production, new generation textiles, and a signature aesthetic that feels unmistakably hers. She has been seen slipping into design studios, attending private sessions where craftsmanship meets innovation, and lending her name to rooms abuzz with conversation about responsibility, beauty, and longevity. Those who've worked with her lately describe a creative storm. She sketches incessantly, asks difficult questions about provenance, and pushes for materials that honor both the planet and the eye. A capsule collection, they say, is almost ready. Clean lines, refined structure, modern minimalism, and a touch of romantic defiance. Will this pause her acting? For now, yes. But it also plants a flag in a new field, a legacy that doesn't rely on a character's name, but her own. Naturally, the fandom is split. A chorus cheers them on: this is courage, they say, the choice to face the unknown and refuse to stagnate. They laud Kagate's audacity to square up to a global industry notorious for breaking spirits, and they celebrate Hzal's commitment to making beauty without compromise. Others mourn the moment. To them, it feels like closing a book they never wanted to end. They fear the alchemy that once lit their screens may dim, never to reappear with the same glow. Is this farewell, or simply a long intermission? Who can fault them for asking? When two careers intertwine so deeply in the public imagination, the audience's feelings become as tangled as the storyline. But behind the glamour are two human beings with evolving ambitions. Dreams need room to breathe. Vision asks for solitude. No career can thrive under the full weight of what used to be. And as we unravel these threads together, a quick reminder. If this kind of in-depth look is your thing, show some love to Turkish Spotlight Secrets by liking, subscribing, and tapping join to support the work that brings you stories like this. Tell us in the comments which Turkish stars you want us to explore next. Your voice guides what we do. Back to the heart of it. Those close to the process say Kagate has already altered his day-to-day life. Appearances that used to be routine have been trimmed or rescheduled. He's dedicating long hours to dialect work, refining rhythm and intonation until the lines live in his mouth without effort. There are private, tightly monitored rehearsals. There is a script people whisper about with a mix of awe and curiosity, something dark, edged with tension, emotional dread, and kinetic action, exactly the ground where an actor with both physical command and interior depth can make a dent in global conscience. He's also working with movement coaches to sharpen stunts, doing on-camera tests with international directors, and taking meetings that stretch well past midnight in hotel suites overlooking the city. The tone around him is focused and quiet, the kind of silence that often precedes a breakthrough. Meanwhile, Hzal is an entirely different kind of tireless. In workshops, on cutting tables, between racks of prototypes and bolts of regenerated fabrics, she's weighing grain and drape with the attention she once reserved for beats and pauses in a scene. She debates color with a painter's stubbornness, earthy palettes that echo natural dyes, a charcoal barely warm enough to whisper, a milk white that feels like early morning. She's mapping out supply chains with the seriousness of a producer, insisting on transparency and traceability, and spending afternoons with artisans whose hands know what machines still can't. The line, "Those in the room say," carries her signature in every seam, modern, wearable, and quietly audacious. The audience response remains a swirl of opposites. Go, some write. We'll follow you anywhere. Others say softly, without them together, the screen will never hit quite the same way. Maybe both sides are right. The old feeling will not return as it was. But new forms can be just as luminous if we allow room for transformation. And that date, November 20th, 2025, will sit in the collective memory like a bookmark. A line between chapters. The day the definition of success shifted from repeating a beloved pattern to risking reinvention. In that sense, there's something deeply inspiring about two artists choosing discomfort over habit, curiosity over certainty, and the horizon over the harbor. It does not lock the door on future collaborations. If life has a specialty, it is the elegant surprise. If they meet again on set, it could be with steadier hands, fuller toolkits, and a richer sense of who they are alone, every reason to believe the work would land with even greater truth. Until then we stand at the doorway of two distinct sagas, Kagate Yulasoy, striding into the exacting machinery of Hollywood, and Hzal Kaya, building a sustainable fashion vision that threads ethics through beauty. One era bows. Two new ones rise. You can feel the aftershocks across the industry. Directors who once pitched both of them together are rethinking scripts. International agents are placing new calls. Streaming platforms are running scenarios about audience migration. In the midst of all of this, there's a quieter story too, the personal reckoning of two artists who know what it costs to change. Friends say they've handled this with grace and directness. The conversation between them, we're told, was honest, respectful, and calm. No dramatic scene, no sour undertone, just the mutual understanding that the thing they created together will only keep its magic if it isn't forced into repetition. One insider described a late-night moment in Los Angeles. Kagate, looking over a stack of pages, murmured that the silence between lines might be the hardest part to master in another language. He smiled, then went back to work. Another source recalled Hzal at a small atelier in Istanbul, pinning a hem herself because the exact length shifted the entire silhouette. Neither of these images belongs to a farewell, both belong to artists moving toward their next truth. No one knows what will happen 6 months from now, a year, or 5. A surprise cameo could ignite a frenzy. A chance appearance at a festival could send cameras into flash fire. But if they do cross paths on screen again, it will be because the story asks for them, not because expectation demands it. That is how legends protect themselves from dilution. For those whose hearts ache tonight, it's okay to miss the feeling. Stories live in us not only because of what we saw, but because of who we were when we saw them. For those who are cheering, your optimism is a gift. Artists need that kind of faith. And for everyone in between, this is an invitation to watch what happens when talent refuses to be boxed in. Before we close, a gentle reminder: if this deep dive moved you, show your support for Turkish Spotlight Secrets. Subscribe, hit like, and consider joining our community with the join button. Tell us what moments of theirs you still replay, and which new chapters you're most excited to witness. Your comments shape what we chase next and who we sit down to talk about. As the lights dim on this announcement, the stage doesn't go dark, it changes sets. In one corner, a young man from Istanbul rehearses under a different sky, learning to let new rhythms live in his voice. In another, a woman with fierce clarity and a soft laugh threads a needle through fabric that might one day hang in windows from Nisantaşı to New York. The story of Kagate Ulusoy and Hzal Kaya is not ending. It is multiplying. Mark the calendar. Remember the feeling. Then look forward. This is Turkish Spotlight Secrets, signing off, until the next chapter arrives, and we find out what these two will make of the future they've chosen.